Hey, it's Mike with Henniker Company. Today we're going to remove a power unit and do an oil change. This plow definitely has been sitting around a while. I think it's going to be a really good example of why you need to change your oil. We'll show that once we get this tank off. So to start with, probably take a picture of how your wires are set up, or if you've got the operator's manual there, just so you can get your wires put back on in the same place. You're going to need a pair of 11/16 wrenches to get your hoses off. And then there will be two bolts coming up from the bottom side under here, 9/16 wrench to remove those two bolts. We're going to take the complete power unit right off of the plow and take it to a bench and disassemble it. So we've got the power unit removed from the plow. One thing I didn't mention when we were out looking at the plow itself, we've got the power cable here, the positive and the negative. I removed those when I was pulling the hoses off in the wires. So first thing we'll do is drain the tank. So we'll get that drained here, and then we'll come back. There's 4 small bolts. They're use a 1/4 inch wrench. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty hard to get in there with anything other than a small wrench. So we'll get your oil drained here, and I'll start removing the bolts, and then we'll show you what's inside this tank. Okay, we've got 4 little bolts removed here. Set those aside so you don't lose them. Got the tank drained here, so we're just going to remove it now. Use a smaller dead blow hammer, usually just bumping the edges here. You can get that tank to slide off the O-ring that seals it to the housing here. So there's going to be a little bit of oil left in the tank. Get that dumped out. Make sure you dispose of your oil properly. We're going to look inside that tank. This one's pretty nasty. Oil hasn't been changed in quite some time. Recommend changing your oil after the first year you use your plow, just to get break-in material. There's always a little bit of filing or whatever inside of there. Change your oil every year if you're a commercial plower. If you're just occasionally using your plow 2, 3, 4 times a year, you can probably go a couple years in between oil changes. But always look at your oil, make sure the level is good. If it looks bad or smells bad, you do want to get your oil changed also. Going back inside here, looking at the pump, we do have a magnet on the side of the pump that catches filings or whatever. This one's pretty nasty. So you do want to get that cleaned up before you reassemble it. Looking at the pump here now, we have our suction filter, and on a V-plow it's got these 2 return lines. So these are just act like a diffuser, slows the oil down coming back into the tank so you don't get it overflowing and up and out of the reservoir cap. So we'll get these pulled off. We'll wash everything up with solvent. I don't like to use a brake cleaner. It's pretty hard on the rubber O-rings and the seals. Your suction filter, we'll just pull off there. These are replaceable as a replacement part. If it's not terribly built up and caked up, you can just rinse these with a solvent and reuse those. So we'll get this cleaned up here, then I'll show you how to replace the O-ring and then reassemble the tank. We've got our tank rinsed out here. I decided to get a new filter. This old one is looking pretty grungy, so I'm going to put a new suction filter on here. It's a little bit of like a hose barb on the end, so you just slide it up and it snaps across that first barb. We'll replace our return filters. And then I've got a new O-ring here. I want to put a little bit of oil on it. We're using our Henniker cold flow oil here. So we'll get a little bit of lubrication on this O-ring. And then put it back into the groove, the sealing groove here. Okay, got that in place, and we can put our tank back on it. I did put our magnet back in. And it'll slip over the top of that O-ring. Line up your bolt holes. I'll go ahead and get those 4 bolts put back in. And then I'll kind of give an overview when we come back. Okay, so we've got the 4 bolts put in the reservoir here to hold it back on. There's a fill line on the side of the tank. We'll bring that back up to full level. To drain the rest of the oil out of your systems, you're going to have a little bit in your hydraulic hoses and some in your cylinders. You can pull your hoses off and drain them out. A couple different ways to clean your cylinders out. You can remove them from the plow and drain them that way. Or if you have your plow, you can lift it off the ground with a floor jack and then put your hoses into a bucket and push your wings back and forth. That would also empty your cylinders. A couple of different ways you can go at it with that. I think it touched on again, with this power unit being that dirty, there's always a chance of pulling some of that debris back into your valves, into your relief valves, into your angle valves. Doing that can cause problems. It can hold your valve open. So if you've got a plow, the wing just isn't holding pressure, that is a possibility. It is just that contaminated. It needs to be flushed out. Thanks for watching.